Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing another RWBY review video, and this one will be on character development. Now on the last one I did was on fight scenes. This one I'll be talking about each character for the most part, development throughout the 8th volume. Now, just so you guys know, there will be some 7th volume stuff in this because it kind of bleeds into it, but they both kind of use the same development of characters in order to, further the story. We're going to start with RWBY, obviously. Now, RWBY's development throughout this specific volume was mainly about her internals turning into externals. Throughout most of the first 7 volumes, she is relatively positive in what she believes in and is very motivated to keep doing what needs to be done in order to win the war against Salem. In Volume 8, however, we see that internally she's been thinking a lot about, especially about Atlas and Mantle specifically. She says the line, "We left exactly where we were this morning, debating on what we're going to do while the kingdom waits to die." To me, that shows that even though she's mainly an externally positive person, she did have her internal struggles with if everything was going to be okay or not. By the end of the volume, she's back to being a leadership figure, and she refocused and all that, but with what happened at the end of Volume 8, that might change in Volume 9. We don't know if the actual mental breaking point's coming, but I think that it will, and I don't know who's going to comfort her this time. Let's move on to Weiss. Now, Weiss's dev... One second. Sorry. Weiss's dev was in Volume 7 and 8. And basically through Volume 7 and 8, it was mainly her being back in Atlas, her reconnecting with her sister, her and her sister being able to spend time together and kind of being back on the same page again. Her relationship with Whitley changed in this volume as well. She's starting to embrace her family, even the ones that have done her wrong, because family is important to her now, but not just as the name, but as the people. And we're going to do one on ships too, because there's a lot to say about Weiss and quite a few of the characters from this volume. But for now, I'm just going to say her way she is now towards her friends, her family, and all that has drastically changed, and they continue to change from volume to volume. Now, with that being said, Blake is one of the few that there's not really much dev that happens in Volume 8. She's mainly there as like a buffer and to help others feel better and to help people refocus and to lift people up a little bit more than she normally would. So I guess she was the supportive character when the normal supportive characters were not around. Now let's talk about Yang. Yang's thing... Yang throughout this volume was mainly split between what she was doing and who was not with her. This one, I feel like there wasn't as much on Yang besides her ships, which was mainly with Blake, which we'll get into in the next video. But a lot of her thing this volume was kind of restructuring back into like the mother of the group or this big sister of the group in like Oscar's case. And a lot of her like interactions with other characters were her either standing up to them to make her what she believes is right to be heard, and as well as stand up for those who she feels that she needs to stand up for. To me, this is great because it makes her get back to her roots while also continuing to allow her to grow. And I can't wait to see what happens next. Now, for Jean's team, we're going to go Jean, Oscar, and then Nora, and then Ren. Because Nora and Ren, I think, had the most development this volume. We'll start with Jean. Jean didn't really dev that much this volume. He was back to his normal, leadership role and making up plans and helping RWBY with making up plans as well. his medical skills, or his medical skills, I guess is how I'll phrase it, because it amps aura, which is technically medical, I guess. But Jean's main purpose, I guess, was just to be like Oscar's big brother or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry if I'm getting something wrong here, but I just didn't see a lot of Dev from Jean, mainly because he was more sporadic on screen than the rest, in my opinion. But he still served a purpose this volume, and I believe his purpose was mainly to just keep his team focused on the goal and keep motivating those around him and lift up the spirits, much like Yang does, just in a slightly lesser extent. Oscar / Ozpin. Their Dev, mainly Ozpin's, not Oscar's. Oscar's is mainly just trying to keep himself separated from Ozpin as much as he possibly can, and for as long as he can. That's kind of been his thing since the beginning. So unfortunately, a lot of his Dev is basically just the same, just refocused. Ozpin, however, his Dev this volume went from basically the entire time it was his conflict, internal dialogue with Oscar, kind of showing that he doesn't like when he has to become other people. He doesn't like having to take their lives from them and leave them with nothing, but he still has to because that's the hand he was dealt. He also owned up for his mistake of not talking about Salem and withholding secrets from everyone, and hopes that everyone will trust him again, which proves that he's learning from the mistakes he made, and he's doing the right thing now to try to fix things. We're going to start with Ren. Ren this volume was a very grab bag. For most of it, he was shoving people away, insulting people, being kind of more removed, and, he's basically being a very negative type of person. And that was throughout the first half. And then on a scene where they're recaptured by the Aesops, he says the thing that he was really thinking, and that's nobody's replaceable, no friends will be left behind. And that's a big thing for his character alone, and his semblance evolved for that, which we'll do one on semblances as well later down the road in terms of videos. And then Ren's second half of the volume was him finally admitting his feelings for Nora, actually voicing them, and admitting that he was beating himself up over what happened at the end of volume 7 with Neo getting the lamp. My thing with Ren was he was basically in denial and then acceptance over what happened, and that's big. Nora, her main journey of this volume was deciding who she was without Ren, what she's used for, how capable is she without Ren, what are her motivations, what can she do that she can do with Ren or that Ren can't do. And a lot of this volume was her internal, external. Everything about her character was on big focus this volume to redecide who she was, what she stood for, and everything. And so I believe she had the most Dev over the last 2 volumes, except for maybe Ren and or Weiss, because it was an Atlas arc. But Nora hit it out of the park in terms of character Dev. Crow was sporadic. His character Dev, I think, is actually going to be kicked off in the next volume, but he comes to acceptance over what happened to Clover. He does understand that he made the mistake having to deal with the darkness in terms of Tyrion and him teaming up on Clover. And he regrets it costing him his life. And then now we're going to see what happens after Volume 8's conclusion, which we'll get to in a video where I just go over the entirety of Volume 8 from episode to episode and explain the main points. Robin was basically there just to be Crow's buffer, just to be there for Crow, help him out with whatever needed to get done on their end, which was great. Happy Huntresses, they were doing the evacuation mantle, they were helping the main heroes, they were helping everybody as much as they possibly can, and that's great, because that's what their build-up was the protectors of everybody, including mostly Faunus because of how they're treated. Then we come to the last 2 that I'm actually going to get into big things with. Penny, I'm actually going to get into first, because I almost skipped over Penny. Penny throughout throughout Volume 8 and the late stage of Volume 7 was going from robot to human girl, letting her soul take over more of who she was. And that was her arc. She went from robot to human. And that was basically the gist of what her thing was. She learned more about her friend. She learned more about how feelings are and all that before you know what happens. I'll leave it at that just because there is a lot that I'm going to go over in the last video I'll do on Volume 8, and Penny is going to be a big part of that. Winters throughout Volume 8 is her dealing with her internal complex feelings, because she had a multitude of them, and she was very unsure about what she was doing, who she was with, who she wanted to be with, everything. And so throughout this volume, it was mainly her being conflicted about any order that was given to her, but having to follow it because that's how she is. At the end of the volume, she finally finds it in herself to turn against Ironwood because of the fact that he's been crossed the line for a while, and trying to blow up Mantle was the final straw for her. And that's a big thing. She also grows to re-accept her family, which is much like Weiss was a big step because now they're with each other. They're all in vacuum. Lastly, let's talk about Ironwood. Now, Ironwood's dictator / maniacal leader / whatever you want to call it started, I think, from the beginning. But in this volume, we really see his mind just completely shattered. We see any trace of humanity gone. We see any emotion in his eyes gone. His arc is going from human to basically a meat puppet of sorts. He has his own free will, but he really doesn't, because Salem let him into this role, and as soon as he got in the role, he was doomed to be not only a villain but also lose. So his arc is just that, dropping from human to somewhat human to meatbag, basically, with some metal instruments, more or less. I believe he is one of the better villains. I don't like him in terms of what they had him do, but I understand why. You know, you had Salem get completely fucking obliterated in like a little over halfway through the volume, so somebody needed to be the villain. Cinder, I want to fucking die, by the way. I'm not going to talk about her character dev, and I'm going to do a separate video on all the villains' character devs. Not Ironwood, because he was kind of more of a hero that was doing the wrong things. But they needed someone to step into that villain-ish type of role, and that's what he was there for. He was devved into it, and that's how his arc probably finishes. He might have survived what happened, but who knows? And so that is my review on the character arcs. I know they're kind of short and sweet and to the point, but I know that not a lot of people like watching long videos, so I try to make sure that the key purpose of the arcs are at least said, so you guys know what I think, and I hope you guys can agree with me. If you guys want to start a debate about it, please comment down below, but respect everyone's opinions and do not be super combative about it, because it doesn't matter. It's for fun, guys, let's be honest. So stay tuned for the next episode, which will be RWBY Ship's review from Volume 8, and we might even reference some past volumes. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.